it once it's done. Toss her out. She will have to survive on her own from here on out. He can't mean that. This was our baby. Our baby is a mistake from the moon goddess. One I will rectify. His voice called again from the other room. He wouldn't even face me. Now do it. That's in order. Yes, Alpha. It was a mistake to come here. It was a mistake to give him everything. Oh, and doctor? Her sweet voice called from the other room. My stepsister, Shannon. I gritted my teeth. Don't use any anesthetic. She should feel everything. Yes, Luna. The doctor turned back to me with sad eyes, but when he picked up the scalpel, I knew I was screwed. I'm sorry, baby. Mama couldn't save you. She wanted you so much. I tried to rub my stomach, but the nurses had strapped me down. When the doctor approached, I realized he was using a silver blade. Silver. My whisper was almost silent, but he nodded. I knew then that Shannon didn't want me to survive. She wanted my life so badly that she lied about me cheating on my mate, showing photos as proof. But I never touched another wolf, nor would I again, not after this betrayal. Why, moon goddess? Why would you give him to me just to take him away? My pup. I cried silently as the doctor cut into my abdomen, and I felt my baby thrash inside. He knew it was too early to be born. This was a death sentence for both of us. Bring me the body of the pup. Yes, Alpha. I felt every slice as he cut into me, and finally I could take it no longer. I started to scream. Soon I felt the blood trickling down my side, every drip off of me hitting the floor. I thrashed against the restraints. But the silver had made me weak. I'm sorry, baby. They weren't trying to keep me alive, which I expected, but I wished wasn't true. I used to love my mate, but I felt the love die in me when I saw my pup being ripped from my belly. Please, let me hold him once. I tried to move my arms to reach for him, but I was still tied down. The doctor, who was shedding tears, brought my pup and laid him on my chest. He was perfect. I rubbed his scent on my face and mine on his. He would forever be a part of my soul. My missing piece. Doctor, now. Yes, Alpha. The doctor picked the baby up and rushed out, leaving me spread open to the elements. I felt my life slipping away as the door opened and Shannon came in. Her smug smile was firmly in place. I told you I would take your life, Amy. I would have your mate. And I have over and over since he found out of your betrayal. Shannon walked over and laid a kiss on my face as I snarled. He is perfection. And don't worry. I will give him another son. She laid her hand on her stomach and I started to laugh. What's so funny? I can smell the beta on you. That's Derek's child, and it's a girl. Nice try, though. She snarled and raised her hand, growing her claws to deliver the final blow, but the door was ripped open and my mate, the man I now hated most in the world, stepped inside. His eyes were red, and I started to laugh again. You bitch. He snarled and struck out, whipping Shannon to the other side of the room. Brandon. Shannon shrieked as she hit the wall. What's wrong? She staggered to her feet, but more blood dripped out of me, and I closed my eyes. You lied. He screamed, shaking the walls as his aura struck out, but I could barely feel it. I felt the silver traveling in my veins getting closer to my sluggish heart. This was my pup. I can smell me on him. He was mine. Brandon's eyes grew redder as the tears gathered. You said she cheated on me and that it wasn't my pup. She did cheat on you. I guess I was wrong about the pup. You said you smelt it. From the sound of it, he lunged for her again, but him clutching our baby in his arm was the last thing I saw. And I wanted to never see it again. He did this to us. Not Shannon. She played her part well, sure, but him not believing me, not waiting for a few more days to smell the pup, that was his fault. And all of our downfalls. I prayed for the moon goddess to take me. I no longer wanted to be here. I wanted to be with my pup. Save her. No. Shannon screamed. I am the Luna now, you marked me last night. So that was the pain I felt last night. His betrayal had ball shoot into my mouth. I am bearing your pup. I started to laugh again. I cracked my eyes to see my mate, Brandon, hovering next to me. Stay with me, Amy. Beta's baby. She is fucking, the beta. I choked out the words and laughed as horror bloomed in his eyes. Blood flew from my mouth as I smiled again. Save her. No. I slammed out, putting all of my power in it. Don't move. I used my alpha strength to freeze everyone, including my mate. How? Brandon looked down at me, pleading. Let me save you. I am descended from the moon goddess, and you don't deserve to save me. You don't deserve our pup. You were weak. And now you lost everything. I smiled up at him as I felt my life from my body. And then I was free. I opened my eyes to find myself surprisingly alive. Amy, hurry, you're going to be late. I jolted up and looked around, confused. What was going on? Where was I? Amy, the voice called again and I shook myself. I stood up from the bed and looked around again. I recognized this room. It was my childhood bedroom. I hadn't stepped foot in this room since I found my mate, Brandon. I heard a knock on the door and my mother opened it. Before I could process what was happening, I ran into my mother's arms. Mom, you're here. I started to cry. I've missed you so much. Amy, my girl. She laughed as she patted my back. I saw you yesterday. She pulled back and I looked into her amber eyes that matched my own. Happy birthday, baby. I leaned into her hands and realized that today was the last day I spent at home. I found my mate on my 18th birthday. Thank you, Mom. Hopefully, you will meet your mate today and start your new life. She smiled at me and I felt my blood freeze. I didn't want to meet Brandon. Not when I knew what was going to happen. I'd rather stay here with you. I smiled as I kissed her cheek. I don't want to miss you and Morgan. And I knew that when Brandon thought I cheated on him, before he killed my baby and me. He killed my mother for her involvement. Shannon's father, my mother's husband, watched her die. Don't get me wrong, I knew he loved my mother, and he was hurting, but his scheming daughter was the cause of all of this. He stood by and watched it all happen. I understood why he supported his daughter, but I didn't like it, nor him, for that matter. Baby, you won't miss us. We will be there every step of the way. She kissed my cheek, and I wrapped my fingers around hers. Mom, can we just leave? You and me? Leave Shannon and Morgan and move back to Daddy's pack. My father, the alpha of the Silvermoon pack, wasn't a good husband, but he was a good man. He cheated on my mother, betraying her when he was drunk. But he swore it was a mistake. It was another alpha's maneuverings to break them up, but my mother said it didn't matter. It was too late. His betrayal cost the life of my brother growing inside of her, and she refused to move past it. No, baby. I can't go back. My mother's face fell as she turned away. I don't want to be betrayed, Mom. Not like you and not any worse. I don't want a mate. I whispered my new truth. Mates don't hurt each other, baby. She tried to smile, but I shook. I knew exactly what mates do to each other. Would you be mate if I refused my mate? God, no, baby. The moon goddess makes a path clear, but it is up to us to choose it. If you don't want your mate, you can reject him. And if it is the alpha son? My mother looked at me. She knew that if it was the alpha son, I would be screwed. They wouldn't allow me to leave. An alpha has to mate his first mate, even for a day to come into his full power. What do you know? I watched as her eyes searched mine. I pulled her back into my room and away from the door. I don't know for sure, but I am terrified that if I am mated to Shannon's boyfriend, I will die after we are mated. Mom, the chances that he will match with an alpha far outweigh the chance that he is mated to the daughter of the beta. I pulled back. I don't want this for me. She weighed my words, and I watched as she came to the same conclusion. Okay, baby. But you can't leave. It would be too conspicuous. You will have to mask your scent whenever he is around. I tossed my hands in the air. How would I do that? There is much you don't know that I would leave in the past, but if you are sure, she trailed off and I just nodded my head. Then let me make a few calls. You don't have to go to school today. I leapt back into her arms. Thank you, Mom. I don't know what I would do without you. I love you, baby. You will never be without me. That I can promise you. She kissed my cheek and then left me alone in my room. I ran to my phone and checked the date to make sure. It was 2018. I went back 6 years. 6 years to the day that I met Brandon. I could relive everything, make better choices. I could live, and maybe this time around, so would my pup. I rubbed my flat stomach. Don't worry, my pup. This time around, no one will hurt you. I went into my in-suit and jumped into the shower. No way was I going to face today, looking like I just crawled out of bed. I stood inside my closet in a towel trying to figure out what to wear when I heard my bedroom door open. I was about to turn and call out to my mother, but I heard a soft step, which my mother wouldn't do. So I hid behind my winter coats and I waited. I'm telling you, if she is Brandon's mate, I'm going to kill her. You can't mean that, Sean. The nozzly voice of Megan, Shannon's best friend, came from the cell phone pressed to her ear. Of course I do. Brandon is mine. Only because you put out. He was hoping Shannon would notice him. You shut your fucking mouth, Megan. Shannon snarled and her eyes flashed. He's mine. Whatever, I gotta go. Hurry the fuck up before I leave your ass, Megan called, and then the line went dead. A honk sounded from outside and Shannon was snatching something before I grabbed her hand. What do you think you're doing in my closet? Amy? Shannon's mouth dropped out. I squeezed her hand until I heard a crack. Her scream was muffled by my hand. You're lucky I only broke one finger. You just threatened to kill me. Didn't I hear that correctly? A beta's daughter threatening an alpha. I'd scared. I didn't do shit. She snarled back at me as her hand reformed. Lie again and I will break all of your fingers and hold them while the bones heal. I couldn't stop my grin as I felt her tremble. Did you threaten me? Yes, she screamed at me. You're going to take Brandon from me. I don't want your pathetic alpha now or ever. Keep him. I pushed her away. Now get out of my room before I change my mind about maiming you. I turned back to my clothes and picked out low-rise jeans and a tank top. What the fuck is your problem? You. Now leave. I let my wolf come forward and my eyes flashed. I pushed my alpha command into my words and forcing her out of my room. Stupid bitch. How dare she come into my room to take something of mine? My wolf growled lowly. This was our den. I shook myself and refocused. Closing the doors, I hopped back into bed, pulling out my phone. I tried to remember everything that happened in the last 6 years that could help me with my plan. Because make no mistake, Brandon and Shannon would pay. Pack your bags, Amy. My mom came in, surprising me from the list I was making. What? I looked up. Why? You are going to spend the summer with your father. I already got the approval from the alpha. Mom smiled down at me. Come on, baby. Pack your bag and get ready. I jumped to my feet and ran to my mom. I can go. Just for the summer, baby, then you will be back here with me. I had to promise that you would be returning here. I pouted. Mom, I really don't want to be here. I wanted to make them pay, but I wouldn't risk him finding me. It's okay, baby, you will understand once you see your dad. She patted my hair and kissed my cheek. Now get ready. Okay, Mom. I kissed her back, then she left me alone. I grabbed my phone to lock it and then turned back to my closet. I packed my bag and then headed into my bathroom when I heard the downstairs door slam open. I fucking knew it. I heard Shannon scream downstairs. I ignored her as I grabbed everything from my bathroom and then I grabbed my laptop and chargers. I stuffed everything into my backpack and headed downstairs. Shannon, why are you screaming? Morgan was at the table with his coffee, and my mom was running around when I pushed my suitcase into the room. I'm not Brandon's mate, Daddy. Shannon flew into the room and dove into his arms. How are you so sure? Morgan wrapped his arms around her, but I just snickered. She snapped her eyes to me and she flew at me. It's you. You stupid whore. Shannon tried to claw at my eyes, but I just sent her flying with a backhand. Amy. Morgan got to his feet, but my mom scared. Morgan, you can't yell at Amy for protecting herself. Sean attacked her first. My mom placed my breakfast on the table. Amy, come eat. You have a long day ahead. Babe, why does Amy have a suitcase? She is going away for the summer. To her father's. My mother turned to me and opened her arms. Come, baby. Come eat. The car is coming and you need to be ready to go. I walked over and sat down and dug in. Why is she going to her dad's? Morgan walked over to pick Shannon up. She wanted to spend the summer with her dad's before college, and who am I to say no? My mom smiled down at me, and I smiled back at her. I didn't know what was going to happen this summer to protect me from Brandon finding out I was his mate, but I needed it. Whatever it was, I needed it. Yeah, my dad called me this morning, and since I haven't seen him since Christmas break and when he offered to fly me out, I asked my mom. I smiled sweetly over at Morgan, and Shannon smiled. You're leaving. Shannon stood up. Yup. I'll be gone the full summer. I smirked over at her. But my room is locked, and it will stay that way. My smile dropped away as I stared at her and used my alpha command. Amy, Morgan yelled out. You know you're not allowed to alpha command your stepsister. And I wouldn't have Morgan if I hadn't found her in my room this morning, trying to take things out of my closet. I turned and raised my eyebrow, daring her to try to lie. Is that true? Morgan looked down at Shannon and I just stared at her. I watched her open her mouth to deny it. I wouldn't lie. I'll just command you to tell the truth. She screeched and stomped her foot. Yes, she screamed. Are you happy? Yes, I went into her closet to steal some clothes because I know she is Brandon's mate. How? I threw up my hands, playing like I didn't know the truth. How could you possibly know that I am his mate? Neither of us has scented each other. Because he scented you on me. Her voice was hitting a higher octave, and my ears were starting to hurt. Calm down. You're hurting everyone's ears, and just explain yourself. My mom sat next to me at the table, rubbing her head. Last month, Brandon turned 18, and I was wearing Amy's dress. He scented around me and said I smelt divine. But when I'm not wearing her clothes, he has zero interest in me. Shannon pouted. So he likes the way I smell, doesn't mean we are mates. I pointed out, completely and utterly denouncing Brandon as a mate. If I didn't accept him, he would never be my mate anyway, and I would never accept him. That was the only thing I was sure of. Brandon would be the last male I would ever touch this time around. Stop being obtuse, Amy. We all know what it means when a wolf likes your smell. Shannon started to cry and buried her head in her hands. He's the male I want, Daddy. The only one I would ever accept. But he wants her. She pointed to me. I scoffed. I don't want your sloppy seconds, Shannon. Even if he was my mate, and I am not saying he is. It would be a cold day in hell before I accepted him as a mate. I would take the Leakin King over Brandon. I threw my head back and laughed when she gasped. The Leakin King was the bogeyman of all wolves. The last Leakin to exist, and one who lives in the wild. It's said the only wolves that ever see his face are the council that oversees the packs. But either way, I wasn't lying. I would take the king as a mate before I would even look in Brandon's vicinity. You're lying. He's the alpha. And? Everyone wants to be the Luna. Idiots want to be the Luna. I turned back and finished my food as Morgan calmed her down. My mom stood when she heard a horn. That's for you. I nodded as I stood and kissed my mother goodbye before I left. I slipped into the back of the car after putting my bags in the back and buckled in. I had barely taken a breath before I launched myself over the seats and into the driver's arms. His laugh made my eyes prickle. Hey, love bug. Uncle Ronnie. I've missed you. I climbed over the seats and sat up front. What are you doing here? Ronnie was my dad's beta. Not related, but he had been there for most of my life. You think I was going to let my cheeky niece come to Packlands alone? Not on your life. Dad sent you. I laughed. Dad sent me. He is a worrywart, your dad. He smiled over and laughed with me. As soon as your mom called, he sent me with the jet. He didn't have to. I just shook my head and buckled my seatbelt. Of course he did. He never gets to see you enough, and now you're sending in the summer. What's going on? My uncle looked at me, and I just shook my head. I don't want to be here. Why? I looked down at my hands that were twisted. I'm afraid that my mate is here, and I don't want to be right. I figured if I ran away, I could push off the inevitability. Why wouldn't you want your mate? My uncle asked as he zipped down the highway toward the airport. I'll tell both you and Dad, just not now. My uncle looked over at me, searching my face and then nodding. Fine, but I want the full story. You will get it, I swear. I nodded back to the road. Now focus on driving so you don't kill us. I grabbed the wheel, swerving back into our own lane. Fuck. Uncle Ronnie grabbed the wheel from me and focused back on the road. I just worry about you, pup. I couldn't stop the laugh because Wolf stopped aging at 25 and he looked barely older than me. I know you do. I settled back into my seat and sighed. I promise, what happened isn't going to make that feeling any better. I wiped at my face. I don't even know why my mom is sending me to my dad. She just said that he could help me. Well, let's hurry and get back so we can figure out what you need, sugar. My uncle hit the gas and we ended up at the airport in no time. We loaded my bags and headed up to the jet, settling in there. Close your eyes. You look like you barely slept today and we have a few hours. My uncle patted my head before he sat across from me and opened his laptop. Work. He nodded. This summer, can you teach me some stuff? A plan was forming in my mind, a plan not only to keep myself free from my pathetic mate, but one that would make me a lot of money. Of course, sugar. My uncle smiled up at me. You know, your dad would teach you just about everything he could if you were open to it. I asked to move to your pack. I snuggled into the blanket the flight attendant handed me, and Ronnie froze. What is going on? His eyes flashed. I'll explain later. Just promise you will try to believe me and not judge me. Of course, sugar. He smiled and then turned back to the laptop on his lap. Now get some sleep. Will do. I turned away and fell asleep almost instantly. I woke up to Ronnie shaking me. We're here. I gave an enormous yawn and cracked my jaw before wiping my eyes. Okay. I handed off the blanket and wiped my face again. Thank you. No problem, princess. The flight attendant smiled down at me, and I realized belatedly that she was from the pack too. You don't have to call me princess. You are the alpha's daughter. She bowed and then left us to our own devices. Come on, your dad has already linked me 3 times since landing. Ronnie laughed and whisked me off to the waiting car. Within 30 minutes, we were at our pack lands. Your dad would allow you to move here if you wanted to, sugar. I know. But Alpha Dan won't allow me to leave. I looked over and blew out a breath. I think he assumes something I am running from and won't let me leave until he knows for sure. You going to tell me yet, sugar? I hesitated as we pulled up out front of the pack house. Before I could answer, the door was ripped open and I was surrounded by powerful arms and a smell that made my quaking inside settle. Dad. Hey, my pup. His deep voice calmed me further, and I could feel my eyes prickle. I've missed you. I sniffled as he unbuckled my seatbelt and I was in his arms fully. As I have missed you. He kissed my temple. Now we have much to discuss. He was running with me before I could utter another word, with Ronnie following behind. Slow down, jackass. Some of us can't move that fast. Ronnie struggled to keep up and my laughter filled the halls of the pack house. We settled in my father's office with an out-of-breath Ronnie, who was scowling. God, I miss these two. Tell me what's wrong, pup. I looked around and still I stumbled over my words. My father grabbed my face and shook his head. Nothing you tell me will change anything, pup. I believe you, no matter how crazy it seems. Agreed, sugar. My insides settled when I saw how resolute he was. He would believe my craziness. I could tell no matter how crazy my story was, my father and Ronnie would believe everything I said. I never had to second guess if I was going crazy here. So finally I settled fully and told my story.